welcome. It's about time I was on time for something. Welcome aboard the ship that I really can't pick up a name for. ISS Tuning Fork, the ISS Pizza Cutter, USS Jelly. Oh, sorry. For those in America, Jello. So I call it Gelatine, Jelly Tune, Mozzarella. The USS I'm Not in One Piece. Yes. 2 preemptive warnings. If you are someone who is susceptible to motion sickness and triggered by disorienting movement, try not to focus too much on this ship. If you have visual spectrum like myself that is very sensitive to motion, you will have already seen it. But a bigger warning. The primary subject of this video is mainly acquired in-game through in-game gambling mechanics. For this reason, there is not a 100% chance that you will acquire the ship should you choose to partake in said mechanics. This ship can be very expensive, or a set amount depending on the way you go about trying to obtain it. As such, if you feel you have a problem with gambling mechanics, with gambling in general, such as myself due to my disabilities, then I strongly advise that you seek some aid before continuing. But with that being said, I will offer up an alternative option for trying to acquire this ship. So, with that being said, greetings and welcome aboard. I am Shikili Shajinodo, the over-analytical and hyper-attention to detail idiot, also known as Ri'shad for short. And welcome to Shadowstar and this Star Trek Online Starship Stats Review. I haven't even done the visuals of the previous 3 ships yet. Welcome aboard the Friendship class. This review will take part in some stages, primarily looking, first of all, at what this ship is capable of itself, so its stats, and what this means for the ship. This will be fun. We'll then have a look at the additions, consoles, traits, unique weapons, classify them as unique. From there, I will discuss in further detail some builds for this ship, as well as provide you some footage of this ship in action. And then we will summarise. Oh, and at some point in all this, we'll quickly take a look at customization. Let me gloss over that now for you. There ain't much. There's no customization really, but you will have access to the future Voyager hull type. The hull type you're seeing right now, the 32nd century hull, I think it's 32nd, or is it 33rd? And of course, the other legendary hulls, the Ambassador. There's a fair few additions added to it. It all looks pretty nice. But how will this ship actually perform? Let's get into its stats. Oh, and before I go any further than that, one of the stats that we must bring up is that this ship is a carrier. Specifically noted as the Friendship class flight deck carrier, she comes with her own future pets. Now, I can see them easiest if I do this quickly. Ah, there they are. Very lovely little shuttles. We've seen these before. They could do with a bit of an upgrade, to be honest. Because I don't have the right ship, I can't get the upgrade variant, so that's kind of annoying. But hey, I didn't actually intend to open this ship on my main account. I was planning to get rid of it. It's nice to see, though, that we have these shuttles, and if you are able to access the better versions, they are pretty strong. As for this ship, well... I'm not gonna lie. I do like her. Oh, let me get this. Oh dear. The problem with my new mouse, hypersensitive to movement. I'm not quite used to it yet, guys. I do apologize. And I was on about other people getting motion sickness from this ship. Well, tuning fork in place. The stats are this. Sorry about that. She's a tier 6 Starfleet vessel that once you have reached the required rank of the required rank of basically completing the tutorial, you'll be able to fly this ship. Now, I've got some things to discuss later, but we'll try not to concern ourselves right now. She has a hull modifier of 1.4 and a shield modifier of 1.2 with 4 forward and 4 aft weapons. This flight deck carrier is not very agile, has a base turn rate of 8, an impulse modifier of 0.15 and an inertia rating of 30. Her bonus power settings are a surprising plus 10 to weapons and plus 10 to auxiliary. She is a command vessel and thus comes with the inspirational command abilities, can equip dual cannons, has the cruiser command array in limited fashion of shield frequency modulation and attract fire, and the Starship package for the flight deck carrier. This meaning she has a increased physical and kinetic damage resistance buff, an increased hull regeneration buff, a Hangar recharge speed and rank gain buff, energy and radiation damage resistance buff, and we'll get into her trait in a bit. Now, to make or break this ship, and as you can tell so far, this ship very, very much sits in the Pacific vein of build, we then get to her consuls and her bridge officers. The consuls are a impressive, I say, with a key type of build being used, 3-5-3, 3 tactical, 5 engineering, and 3 science. Of course, you can X upgrade for 1 extra universal slot. The bridge officers are an equally impressive Ensign Universal, Lieutenant Universal, Lieutenant Commander Science, Lieutenant Commander Tactical with Intel Specialization. Keep that in mind. And a Commander Engineering with Command Specialization. Keep that in mind. This leads to a definitive fault, a definitive problem. She really doesn't know what she wants to be. Let's start. We've got a very, very capable tank. Now please keep that in mind. That is probably the only thing she knows she wants to be. She wants to be a tank. And she does it really well. But step away from that. Well, you have that auxiliary power boost. So, possible use of EPG on this ship. He doesn't have the secondary reflector, but maybe. Well, universal consoles aside, making things a little bit easier for this ship. Intel being relatively okay for it. And I will say, being able to go up to 4 science consoles, well, going EPG anyway tends not to really underline too much on what your consoles are because of the number of universals you use. There is quite a fair amount of capability in this ship for it. She won't be as powerful as any science vessel in EPG, but she has potential. So like I said, we've already started on League. She doesn't quite know what she wants to be. She's a tank, but she can somewhat EPG. Well, how about DPS? Yeah, this is weird. So she can energy boat DPS, but energy boat DPS will primarily, in most situations, want to be forward biased. I say this knowing what I'm going to show you in a bit. Actually, I may skip ahead for this. However, being a command ship, command ships do one thing amazingly. Kinetic builds. So when you want to do DPS, which this ship has a great weapon layout for, when it comes to kinetic build, should I say, you'd think this ship would be absolutely brilliant in kinetic build DPS. Wouldn't you? Only in-game at the moment, a lot of kinetic DPS capability comes down to what tactical consoles you can have. Unfortunately, the new advanced engineering, the new advanced science, although you can, please understand, you can use those to give yourself, I'm going to say, an edge up in kinetic damage output. The critical factor for kinetic is that the advanced tacticals ability to give you the critical hit, the critical chance, and the factor that kinetic builds don't rely as much or so heavily on energy weapon power. Or, yeah, weapon power. It's not an energy weapon. It's a stored kinetic weapon. Stored energy. This brings a big fundamental issue. Whereas in energy builds, you can supplement the advanced tactical for advanced engineering, give yourself the energy boost, and be more ongoing output for energy damage while using beam overload and such. You can't do that with kinetic. Now, let me just be honest, you can still go up to 4 tactical slots, or 4 tactical consoles slotted. It will be a bit of a shame because one of those is probably being used by Lorca Custom Fire Control, unless you don't like using that console. That is one that I tend to slot in a lot of my builds. My big concern is that this is hindering one of the ship's strongest points. I probably would have preferred to have lost 1 science console and gained 1 extra tactical to give it that kinetic edge. That being said, like I said, I can consider skipping to this part, so I'm going to skip to this part. I ran quite a few test flights. Now, I'm not going to show you all of them, especially considering I was getting frustrated during a little bit of it. But I ran a fair number. Flew one today, just a little while ago, and I got a decent number output. This was surgical strikes. Now, if I drop back and do the one that I was getting yesterday, you could tell I was getting a little bit frustrated yesterday. A fair few bad hits. There's a surgical strikes build, kept dying. If I'm recalling right, I believe that was cannon scatter volley and I died. Check the damage deaths on this one. No, died. This is the cannon scatter volley one where I died. Yeah, side notes. I lost a lot of actual output there. And the big issue I was having is in these specific 3, I was running with what I could figure out to be only DPSs, and in the case of this one on the screen, I believe one of them was a support player. This had a definitive issue for me. I kept dying. I kept generating quite a large amount of threat. I am happy that in this situation there may have been a tank there. I think. Hang on, let me check. No, there wasn't. I had the fundamental coverage of pulling in damage. And again, I'm pretty sure, not quite as high as before. There was someone else doing, well, look at where they are. Pretty sure. Oh no, they didn't die. They had a bit more endurance than me. And in this one, again, when I died, what's my pull rate of damage? Oh yeah. Not so great when you are a support DPS player which means you have one fundamental weakness: you have next to no endurance. Support DPS, we love you tanks. Tank players, we absolutely adore you. You keep us alive. But let's step aside from that, because the fundamental thing that was to pull up is this ship, like I said, is a tank. It has a huge hull modifier, 1.4, and a really good shield modifier, 1.2. This ship can tank. Hull tank, shield tank, hybrid tank, regenerative tank. It can do it, and it can do it really well. But Lord have mercy, did the moment you sacrifice on the defense, does that just go out the window? However, now I get to have a laugh, because there's a lot of you out there who will scream, oh, you got to do it this way, you got to do it that way. And there are lots of you out there that will be, haha, with every scenario, the build should be different. Well, he went up and straight proved that this time. First of all, first build I used was a forward biased fire at will build. This was my 9th wall run. When I took it into Infected, it did reasonably well. Remember, this is forward bias, utilising dual beam banks, omnis and turrets. Then I went broadside fire at will. Ow. Ah, crap. It did worse in Nightfall. Now, well, we know where Infected's going then, don't we? Oops. Turns out in this scenario, being a fire at will broadside was exactly what I needed. And hey, even the damage in was fine because I had a lovely little tank flying with me. Can't thank him enough for that one. That was the highest score I've done with Advanced. Oh, my support DPS felt happy. Little support DPS build that worked alright. I then went and ran this cannon scatter volley. Yeah, as you'd expect. That one went up. That was even better than the beams. And, well, we saw how that dropped down. But probably down to a death there. Suffice to say, this ship has a good amount of potential if you utilise it right. Now, if you're wondering why I haven't done a kinetics build run on this ship, I consider myself an average player. I am probably at the advanced level, if that. And as a support DPS, that makes my damage output average. You want to see what Kinetic can do, you better hope Oggy returns, or ask Stu 1701, because I'm pretty sure he can pull that off. There's actually a few you could possibly ask. All I'm saying is I am not going to even touch Kinetic builds. I'm not good enough. Not even remotely close. I won't waste your time with it. I will say this. The fundamental endgame of this ship is this ranking. For me, at least. Tanking, it will get 9 out of 10. And it gets that relatively easy because, well, despite what I experienced when flying on my own, this ship is really capable of enduring. It takes a lot of punishment. RPG, I'm going to just set that one aside separately, and I'm going to actually rank this ship there at 7 out of 10. It's got quite a lot of EPG damage output. From there, let's talk about support capabilities with this ship. The sort of thing I've glossed over. It's there, as you can tell, my damage output with a support DPS build. Or a DPS support build, should I say, because that's what my primary goal is, to help DPSs do more damage. As a result, my damage goes up a little bit as well when I'm utilising said builds. It's it's capable. So again, I will give it 6 out of 10. 7 out of 10. I'll give it 7 out of 10 as support. As far as DPS goes with this ship, do not underestimate it. Kinetic DPS, this ship, I know has potential, but not as much potential as it would have had if it just had a bit more tactical capability. So I'm going to hang back on its DPS output for kinetics and rank it 7.5 out of 10. I want to give it higher, I just wish it had more tactical capability. However, take that with a pinch of salt. I'm sure the kinetic specialists will have a different answer for you, and they can advise better. Well, energy DPS. You saw my damage output. I would say that was reasonably decent for an advanced run. So, I ranked this ship in simply 8 out of 10. And the only thing stopping me from giving it 9 or 10 out of 10 is, well, first of all, a little bit more tactical capability, would have granted it that. Because going the route I went is expensive. I used advanced engineering, it's difficult to acquire. But it is quite possible. So I will give it 8 out of 10. And the only one where I'm going to hit it higher and allow it to have 9 out of 10 is full-on broadside builds. Because even a broadside cannon build ended up doing really damn good, but I'm not showing that one. I'm going to let you guys guess. Right. On to the more fun, the extras. Okay, Jelly, let's have a look. Right. A few things to quickly slint and slant on. Whoopsie daisy. We'll quickly gloss on the hangar pets for a little bit of fun. You can see I've actually still got my broadside build up right now. Also, side notes, every single one of my builds I ran utilizing the console of the ship. So, I know it's just one console, but that console was making this ship weaker. Spoiler warning on that one. Also, apologies now if you can hear that fan. So, first of all, the hangar pets. The 32nd Century Federation shuttlecraft. We saw it. It looks nice. I kind of wouldn't mind flying one. It's an interesting shuttlecraft. Equipped with the Federation phaser beam array for the 32nd Century. When I show you what that weapon actually is, you will find that when it comes to ships, it's kind of null and void. But its special is the Structural Integrity Manipulator Mark 1 in this case. Offensive mode will drain hull over 3 seconds and targets foes with the highest current hull within 5 kilometers. Pretty damn good, okay? If you get the more advanced versions of this shuttlecraft, even better. Defensive mode will restore hull over 3 seconds. Targets ally with the lowest current hull within 5 kilometers. This is very good when it's triggered for anyone flying support runs. Specifically support runs with people who need a little bit more help. And side note, it will swap between offensive mode and defensive mode with each activation. Okay, so if you want to swap its mode, trigger. Big side note to put on with that though, is, and please understand this, when you've got that first row out, that's an offensive configuration. Second row comes out, it's up to defense. You want to keep them on DPS, trigger them again as soon as you can. They're pretty good shuttlecraft. They're not the best, but they're pretty good. I'm not going to rank them because that would be mean. At least for these ones. Another quick gloss on. We'll have a look at the weapon you get with the ship. The Federation Phaser Beam for the 32nd century. It's not really a unique weapon to the ship, but it's worth mentioning these anyway. They have a standard phaser damage output, a standard weapon drain rate, and have the 2.5% chance to recover 2.5% bridge officer ability recharge with an additional 1% per second for 20 seconds. Pretty nice. It's a quick speed up. There's two versions of this. They have their own colours. One is a teal, one is a blue. And that varies a bit. You can get it with a higher chance, a 5% chance for the bridge officer recharge. Sorry. Yeah. Trying to get this right. I believe it's a 5% chance to trigger, but it does a much smaller amount. So although it's more likely to trigger, less recharge is required from it. These are really... They're useful to you if you're utilizing a build where you don't have a really easy way to improve your bridge officer recharge time. But, as I'm even utilizing here, there are far too many ways to do better. And I'm not going to lie to you, I'm not using top of the range officers to achieve my recharge time. Oopsie daisy, wrong one. I'm trying to remember where I'm going here now. Whoopsie daisy. Whoops. The 30. Trying to remember how you get to active duty. Woo! There we go. Yeah, I've only got 3 technicians in. They're all blue rank. They're not amazing, but they do the job. They do it really well. I'm trying to avoid getting to this. This one feels to me like the new Protostar stuff. Sounds lovely. Kind of meh. Power transfer emitters. I'm telling you right now, this is a console that is best for support or pet builds. In any other situation, give this console the furthest from hard pass. Literally pick it up and yeet it into a sun. With a plus 2.6 increased critical chance, a plus 28.5 to Starship hull restoration, and plus 10% to increase Hangar pet critical chance. It really gives away what it's good at and what it's not. But the active give your ally a critical chance and an electrical blast. To ally, when critically striking to 3 foes near the target, it will deal just over 400 electrical damage, with a 200 boost if your ally that you have targeted happens to be a hangar pet or separated ship segment. This is where it's useful to people who are running a DPS build that also utilizes pets. Prometheus, for example. Or the Galaxy X, the Mirror Universe Galaxy X. They would be 2 decent ones to utilize it on. Or the Archon, there's another ship you could utilize it on. Try it on the Archon, it would be relatively useful there. I say this because you want to be utilizing on the strongest pet you can possibly utilize it on to get the highest possible increase from this console. The only other scenario this console is useful is for someone like myself. So it sounds funny that I'm negative on it, doesn't it? Because this console is beautiful for me. What do? I support DPS builds. This console is just a easy game. I target the ally, the DPSer that I'm supporting, and I trigger this ability on him. He may not get a 200% increase for electrical damage from when he critically strikes, but he still gets a 400 electrical damage output. I believe it counts for him. And of course, for the ally, there is also that plus 7.5 critical chance for 20 seconds. 20 seconds is a long time, and that will quadruple for your Hangar pets if you've used it on that. But still, for me, utilizing that on an ally, say Stu, it will give him that little bit of an edge. And I know someone like that's already got quite a substantial amount of critical chance going, but it's that little bit extra that lets him hit that a little bit harder. You never know, it could be the difference between a new record in DPS output. And that is the poignant part to this console. It's simultaneously the crappiest console you can possibly have and the best console you can possibly have. It literally depends on the build you're going for. This results in me ranking it at 5 out of 10. 10 out of 10 for support players. 7 out of 10 for DPSs that utilize pets. And 1 out of 10 for literally everyone else. You can see why it's hitting 5, right? Oh, I wanted to be nice, but there, you are an expensive ship, and you should be very, very happy, power distribution emitter, that I'm not downpointing you for that right now. Because that's what I would normally do. Hello, trait. Cooperation is the dominant strategy. It's ironic that I've just beaten Star Trek Resurgence, because that's something I came out with. United. Using a British officer ability or a universal console, an ally applies friendship is science, which stacks up to 5 times and grants non-Hangar allies 10% bonus damage for 30 seconds. So this can stack up to giving non-Hangar pet allies, your fellow teammates, 50% bonus damage. Please keep that in mind. And to allied Hangar pets and separated segments, this is, in testing, this is both yours and other players. I don't know if I was supposed to do that, but my one friend that I flew with to test this, he reported that his little pass he did show a difference between the first and second run when I utilised this trait. In the first run, his pets performed as per normal. In the second run, they were dealing slightly higher damage. Now, I'm gonna say this is odd because there's some skepticism to this. He did some maths, he's better at it than me, and he reckons it wasn't 20% bonus damage that he was seeing. But you have to give some leeway for error because the numbers are always random, aren't they? You never quite know what you're going to see, even with fixed outputs. As a result, I've got to say this. This is a trait that no one really wants. And I know this because most people focus on themselves and build. And I get it. I get it. That's why support is... Being a support player in this is very niche. But this ship is the ship to pick up if you are a support player. And I can't believe I'm saying this about a ship that is here. I'm gonna spoil the end. If you are a support player, I'm really sorry. Get this ship. This is the best support ship we have had in the game, personally speaking, in a good 2-3 years. It has exactly what it needs to be a powerhouse support ship and specialized in it. Everything about this ship is support. The only thing that doesn't want to support is the overall stats. Which I know for a lot of people that you're probably thinking, well, isn't that the biggest aspect of the ship? Can be. Depends on how you utilize the ship. And it was this aspect coming to this point, which is when my brain went from, well, I initially told you earlier, to what I'm saying right now, and my progression in full. Now you can see it. This is a ship that doesn't know what it wants to be. It is great single-mindedly in its DPS ability, in its ability to tank. It's got reasonable support. Sorry, EPG. Turns out the support side of things clings. The trait and the new console takes from what we originally had, gives us more. And I can't help but like the ship for that. So, to every player apart from support, this trait is 0 out of 10. But if you are a support player, especially if you are a DPS support player, this is a 10 out of 10 trait. DPS support players. I don't know if I'm overstepping my experience and knowledge here, but I will honestly say that I believe this is a new meta trait for support DPS. I strongly believe that in support it's a must-have, but if you are directly supporting DPS output, this is a new meta trait and is one that you really should consider picking up. Take that how you will. And have fun, because ironically, I've been working on a support build. Turns out Geneva class, you're going out the window, because I'm now going to be utilizing this one. Okay. Now, I told you about customization, but we will still take a quick glance at it. So let's fly around. Quick glance, and then we'll throw the ship into action. And I am hoping that you'd enjoy it. So the Friendship class shares the 32nd century Starfleet hull. Ambassador, Defiant, Galaxy, Intrepid, Janeway. That's what it's called, the Janeway. Devendra, yeah. NX refit, Odyssey, Sovereign refit type 0, type 7, type 7A, type 8, type 8B. It's all quite nice, all looking really good, and yeah, as you can see, glows are awkward and fun with this ship. It's all a bit of fun. Oh, and another preemptive warning. This ship is very much orientated on its main surfaces. So, as you can see, if I turn this ship green for a second, try adding red to this, and yeah, you can see where the red actually is. So don't expect to be having too much fun with certain color patterns that you can be throwing on this ship. But At the same time, be ready to have a tiny bit of a laugh, I guess. Okay. Here we go. really funny sitting on this ship from this position. Oh, come here, let me smudge your face. Oh, dear me. Oh, let it not be said. I'm actually using the temple hull on the ship now. Can you tell? I like this ship. I don't like that because I don't like to like a ship so expensive that is put in a gambling location. But I'm a support player. Yeah. Not from any account of being, like, kind and helpful in that. But because I've always liked the perspective of, oh, you need healing? Beg. I'm a little bit chaotic. But this ship, I reckon a fleet of this ship flying the Kobayashi Maru mission will probably be able to do that mission without any difficulties. Get really damn far. I strongly believe that would happen. Especially if they're all utilising broadside, beam fire at will, with the correct support traits in place, similar to what I was utilising myself. You know, this build is the one, was a support DPS build, beam fire at will. It's come a long way, beam fire at will, from being where it was before. Honestly, I am so happy with this ship. It's unreal. I'm not a fan of the visuals, I'll be honest with that, but I never will be a fan of the visuals. However, it's not going to stop me from giving this ship a high score. And the fact that this is possibly a £300 ship is not going to stop me from giving this a high score. I said some ranks earlier. I said those ranks on purpose, mostly because I was wondering how many people would get to the end to hear what my real thoughts are. Oh, I'm sorry for being a little bit evil there, but hey. That is because when I finalized all my testing, I came to this summarization. Tanking, 9.5 out of 10. DPS, Kinetic DPS, 8.5 out of 10. Energy DPS, 8.5 out of 10. EPG, 6.5 out of 10. Support, 9 out of 10. Overall score of this ship. This ship that costs £300, possibly, could cost you more, could cost you less. Really depends on your luck, but I always put lockbox ships at the £300 price bracket. And because it's a gambling ship, I always score them down. This is the first time a ship has managed to override that, and I will give this ship 9 out of 10. My final score for this ship is 9 out of 10. I hate saying that about something that in game I really hate. I furiously hate gambling mechanics, mostly because of my disability. My mental health disability makes things like gambling a real danger to me. So so I understand people that have issues with gambling. The dopamine, in my case. But I can't hold that against this ship because it just turned out to be something special. At least for players like myself, because us support players, we're always screaming for more. Because support is so niche and so unloved in the game. The closest to a valid support position that you'll get from most people is control. After that, if you say you run support but you're not control, you tend to get a little bit of a glare at you. I'm hoping this ship can help change that. If you're a support player, like I've already said, I strongly advise this ship. If you are any other type of player, I would honestly say give it a miss, including tanks. The only reason I'm saying that is because for tanks, considering the cost of this ship, there are alternatives that cost the same or less that will actually give you greater tanking potential, because they will most likely also provide you with a decent console or a decent trait to help you with that tanking. Maybe both in certain situations. Something this ship does not do, although it's a good tank ship, stats wise, it will not benefit you in the long run. Now, for support players that do want to get this ship, and if you want to acquire this ship cheaply, I'm going to tell you this now. The ship is currently in the exchange for about 1.3 billion EC. It's quite a lot. I do imagine it's going to come down, because it's in that very niche area of our type. It won't hold its value for very long, so if you've got some patience, wait for it to come down, but if you want it sooner, that's the price you're looking at. Get some new lockbox keys, sell them in the exchange, and go to pick the ship up. I say this because, quite frankly, that is the best way to acquire this ship. Do not partake in the gambling mechanics if you don't have to. Guys, thank you for watching. I would love to hear from you in the comment section, see what you think of the ship. Massive thank you to people credited on screen for helping me get this ship, because I would not be doing that without you guys, and in this situation, you've given me a dream ship. I now need to rename this ship something more suitable for support. May Warrior's fortune be with you. And ciao for now. Stay safe, my friends.